Joined now by a gentleman who is no stranger to Juniper Networks, doing his second stint of duty after roles at Avaya and Oracle. Here to discuss the world of partnership is the formidable Mark Vella. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Kenny, and thanks for that wonderful introduction.
Fantastic. So I think we have you for about 15 minutes, and
15 minutes.
The world is yours.
Correct. Yep, just 15 minutes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on as we transition 128 partners into Juniper, and probably as importantly, what we're going to be doing with Juniper partners moving forward. So this will be a rather quick presentation, kind of give you a feeling of what's going on in the background. Before I launch into this, I just feel that someone should clarify part of Tim's last presentation and his Geek Fest there. Polar bear training is not about how to be a polar bear, it's how to avoid a polar bear. It's just kind of worth throwing that out. They're two very distinctive types of training. So avoidance of polar bears being the critical point here. So
good.
That said,
call out, Mark.
Right, so I hope everyone can see my slides. So what I'm going to try and cover off in the next 14, 15 minutes or so is how we're transitioning our partners kind of into Juniper, and then ultimately what we're setting up and structuring for the 128 go-to-market model now that we're part of Juniper Networks. So I kind of feel that we've talked about this a lot in the past few hours of this boot camp, but it is kind of really important to just note, why we win. Right, and Tim talked about this a lot, and Reed and Kevin and the rest of the folks. So whether it's simplicity that we bring to the table because of our tunnelless architecture, no overlay and hardware agnosticism, and obviously being a software-only technology. Whether it's agility due to fast deployment. I think it was Reed that mentioned that we're deploying 60 to 100 sites per night in some of these very, very large enterprise deployments, in conjunction with our service provider partners, or whether it's our zero trust security model that's kind of critical in that shift from private data center up to public cloud environments. That's something certainly that we're seeing as a must important case for the federal use cases. So the reason I mention all of those kind of key why we win examples are really because it demonstrates sort of how important we are to these various networking and partnership opportunities. And in Tim's last presentation, he mentioned kind of how we partner and where we partner. And the truth is, we partner across a wide array of ecosystem, right? AT&T example, as Tim kind of gave, is obviously very typical of our CSP, MSP, ISP go-to-market models, whereby we are enabling those types of service providers to offer managed services either to enterprise or mid-market customers, either as a managed router or as a next-generation SD-WAN offer. That's typically how, as 128, we were widely deployed. And now what we're seeing, of course, is that now we're part of Juniper and we have the traditional resale, VAR, alliance, systems integrator ecosystem. We're seeing huge demand from the types of partners who are actively transitioning, again, those large enterprise mid-market customers into kind of transitioning through these complex network transformation projects. And as a kind of ad hoc to those transformation projects, obviously, we're partnering with the cloud providers and with the platform providers, especially with folks like Microsoft, Azure, and AWS, because obviously what we need to provide is this entire client cloud infrastructure and solution. So having the ability to spin up our 128 network instances into Azure or into AWS is critical in kind of this whole transformation story. So the point being here that we partner across an entire ecosystem of CSPs, MSPs, ISPs, integrators, resellers, you name it, and the opportunity is there. And so if you kind of consider that and you consider how 128 and before us even Mist were kind of very highly focused on the CSP MSP go-to-market channel. You'll notice that Juniper are making some fairly big changes, and these changes will kick in next week. So anybody that attended the event last week, the Juniper event last week, will have heard us launch the Unified Managed Service Provider Program, or the UMSP program. So this is and that now will sit alongside the Juniper reseller program under the JPA umbrella. So this is actually us now taking advantage of the very close relationships that we have with our service provider and MSP customers, and now working with them to build these new go-to-market models as managed service offerings, either based on 128, managed router, SD-WAN, layer 3 NID services, the sort of things that we've been talking about for the past few hours, and then again layering the Mist and Assurance and Marvis and all these other new features on top of that. So you're going to hear a lot more about this over the coming days and the coming weeks as we kind of more actively launch the new JPA, and more specifically the Unified Managed Service Provider Program. Now, what about 128? So the 128 partner program goes away next week. May 3rd is the date, by the way, that 128 will be fully integrated into all of the Juniper systems, the Juniper platforms, Salesforce instances come together. That may not matter too much for the customers and partners in the audience, but it does just go to be able to, for us to provide you a far better experience and be far quicker in how we communicate and how we address your requirements. So so 128 is going to be rolled into the Juniper Partner Program. So all of the good things that our partners out there in the audience have been used to, with the tiered structures of either being a lead or a reseller, the deal registration, the content, the learning tools, the incremental support, all of that will now be offered on the 128 products as well. What we are doing is any of our partners, the 128 partners, are just going to get mapped straight into the program, either as select or elite partners, and then we will retain those levels for the next 18 months or so, and give the new partners to this program the ability to kind of get used to how the Juniper program works. So the point being, we're actually going to actively migrate our partners in, and then give them time to kind of build their value within the entire system. One change that we are making to 128 is the introduction of specializations. So, and I think most of the partners on this call will know that there's a fair bit of focus on specializations within the partner community. Apstra also have a specialization now that they're coming into Juniper. Mist went through this as well, the acquisition 18 months or so before us. So this, so as part of the requirement of reselling or offering 128 product as a Juniper partner, you will be asked to undergo the specialization requirement. In reality, it's just a bunch of training. So and it really kind of falls into 3 broad layers. So there's sales training aimed at providing the ability to our partners support organization to go out and pitch the 128 product. SSR, how do we differentiate ourselves in the market? So much of what we've talked about today. Then secondly, the training needed to the sales engineering and system engineering folks to go out and demo and POC the 128 environment. And then lastly, obviously, the training required for the support folks to be able to service the product once it's installed, either in an MSP environment or into an enterprise environment. So this 128 specialization again will be launched next week as part of the relaunch of the JPA program. So again, the specialization, it's going to be mapped to elite and select partners. We will not have any rewards tied to this, at least not in Q2. But as we kind of move into the second half of the year, we'll put some of the more traditional reward programs and things that the Juniper partners are used to into play as well. So this will look and feel a lot like the standard programs that you get from Juniper today. So kind of just wrapping up on this. So a lot will be happening over the next couple of weeks, as I mentioned. We are actively migrating all of our Juniper partners into the new programs, and at the same time and in parallel, we are reaching out to many of the new Juniper partners and trying to pull them into the kind of the 128 ecosystem. Again, whether they're our CSPs, MSPs, traditional resellers and the likes, or kind of agents. At the same time, we're launching this specialization requirement, and I would ask each and every one of the partners on the call today to go to the partner center and start to undertake kind of the training behind that specialization. It's not a huge amount of time, and we will give, I believe it's 60 to 90 days for this process to be completed. So obviously we want to kind of actively support our partners in parallel. We're going to be launching the UMSP program, as I mentioned. That's targeting our CSP and MSP partners who are launching services with the 128 underlying infrastructure, and also layering Mist and other assets on top of that. That will give these CSP MSPs access, as I mentioned, to rebates, to deal registration, to lead gen, and to all the other good things I think that will highly benefit those partners and provide further reach into enterprise and mid-market customers. I will please ask everybody to go onto the Learning Academy. That's where a lot of the 128 assets are now being preloaded. We are, of course, launching a new program guide with the UMSP program and also the 128 aspects. So everything I've kind of just covered in the last 10-15 minutes or so. Again, I believe that's going live late this week, or if not, early next week. And again, on Partner Center, there'll be a posting with a bunch of FAQs to kind of help direct the partner community in the right direction as we transition. And of course, you can always reach out to myself, so mbella@juniper.net. I'd be happy to take on any questions or any concerns that anyone may have. I work very, very closely with the rest of the Juniper partner account managers and their leadership. And I have a thin overlay team, which we're also supporting those folks as we kind of onboard. So we're really excited, looking forward to working with the wider partner community here. And I think there is a huge amount we can do together. So with that, I'll hand back to Ken.
Thanks, Mark. You actually beat me to my question, right? So obviously, the world of partners is a global universe. They can reach out to either me or yourself directly, and we can connect them, regardless of where they are in the world, whether it's Europe, Asia, or here in North America. We have people standing by, as we'll say, to get you connected, with the right folks within the world. So thank you very much, Mark.